Oftentimes we stigmatize crying as like, again, a sign of weakness, or it's embarrassing, or like, ooh, that's cringy. No, it's not. It's literally a physical need that your body has. Okay, hi everybody. Thanks for coming back if you've been here before, or hi, welcome if you're new. My name is Vicky. I'm a therapist, and we talk about therapist-y things on this channel. Today, we are talking about 6 ways to cope with stress and anxiety. I've seen a lot of requests for discussion or like ideas for coping strategies and things like that, and I think there's a lot of educating to do around this topic, so we're talking about it today. Before we jump into it, I want to be super clear though, all of the content on this channel and in this video specifically, especially, is not intended to be, never has been, never will be a replacement for therapy. We're doing broad strokes learning and educating here. If you need a therapist, there are links to find one in the description, but this is not that. So, grain of salt as always. I say this in almost every X amount of things about this topic video, but feel free to take what works and leave the rest. We're just here again to do some broad strokes educating, and not all of this will work for all people, and that's okay. Oh, also, if you like my shirt, it's so cute. I made it myself. I'm very proud of it. This is our official Discord tee. If you are a patron and you are a member of our Discord, some of the tiers on our Patreon give you access to exclusive merch, and this is one of the items. I'm in love with it. I'm obsessed with it. So if you want to become a patron and support the channel and also get a really cool t-shirt, go click the link in the description. Thanks so much. Love you the most. So let's jump into 6 ways to cope with stress and anxiety. Tip number 1 is movement. I want to be super clear. This is a fat positive space. And when I say movement, I don't mean punishing your body by forcing yourself to exercise or trying to hurt yourself. What I mean is embracing physical movement as a vehicle for expressing and processing our emotion. For me, this looks like stretching. This can look like dancing. This can look like yoga. For Aaron, this looks like running or going to the gym. For lots of different people, this can look like lots of different things, but there are a variety of ways to move our bodies that are compassionate and kind, and also help us process emotion and stress and those types of things. One of the things that we know to be true in therapy is that our emotions and our trauma do very much live in the body, and so practicing kind and compassionate and thoughtful movement is a great way for us to learn how to express that, is a great way for us to process that, and a great way to release, especially with anxiety. A lot of times we will find we have pent up energy in the body, and so being physically active is a great way to help release that energy and bring down that anxiety level. Again, this can look like lots of different ways. If you're a person who likes going to the gym, go to the gym, go running, go lift some heavy stuff. I don't know. But if you're not a gym person, or if you have a disability, or you find it just physically very difficult, this can just look like doing some really mindful stretching while you're sitting down and watching TV. Be kind to yourself. Practice an attitude of self-compassion around this pursuit. But again, there's lots of different wonderful, valuable ways to do this. And this is generally just a good part of a self-care routine also. So practice moving your body. Thing number 2 is actual mindfulness. Especially in the year 2023, there's a lot of discourse about mindfulness and meditation. And some of it's helpful, some of it's great, but some of it is decidedly unhelpful. And as a clinician, I'm really annoyed by it. So I wanted to talk about this to sort of demystify mindfulness a little bit. I probably should make a whole video about mindfulness and meditation eventually, but for the purposes of being succinct, mindfulness as a practice is designed to help us be in present moment. It's not meant to be a way that we empty our brains, especially for folks with ADHD or folks with a really active inner monologue. The expectation that it will just be quiet upstairs is not realistic, and it freaks people out. So I want to be clear, when we talk about mindfulness, what I mean is being grounded in your body, experiencing what does it feel like to have my butt on this chair, my feet on this floor, to hear this sound in my ears, to taste the thing that's in my mouth, to feel, hear, see in this moment right here, right now. It does not have to mean that your brain is completely shut off, and it does not have to mean that you've transcended to a different plane of existence that's just so far above all the other people. Mindfulness is something that we can be doing all day, every day, in different capacities. It might just look like noticing when your thoughts are wandering to an anxious place and saying, what does my butt feel like on this chair, my feet on this floor, my hands on my shirt, whatever. The core of this, though, is that practicing this mindfulness can be a helpful way to combat stress and anxiety, especially anxiety, because what tends to happen is we will get lost thinking about things that may happen in the future, or thinking about something that has happened in the past, and that robs us of our ability to exist in this moment and to share this moment with the people that we love and that we're in company with. Sorry if you can hear my cat, by the way. She has really big feelings about being locked out of the filming room, but there's lots of electronics and also water in here, and so that's a no-go for now. Generally, I want to encourage people to just practice this exercise of bringing yourself back to present moment without judgment, without being rude to yourself about it, and just saying like, oh, it's happening again. I'm really, really anxious or really worried about something in the future, something in the past. Let me just practice noticing how it feels to be right here, to talk with this person, to, again, all the things, but practice actual mindfulness and not the thing that we tell ourselves about how your brain has to be empty, because that's not helpful. Okay, thing number 3 is sensory input. Oftentimes when we are up here in our brains, we're stressed and we're anxious and we're overwhelmed, we can forget about our meat suit. Adding sensory input to our physical selves is a great way to help ground us in present moment. We just talked about mindfulness and being in present moment and grounded in our body. Sensory input is a great way to do that. Temperature change, texture change, or textures that are interesting and pleasing to you. Food is also a great component of this. We're going to talk about that in a second. But this might also look like spending time outside. I call it lizard time, just laying on the ground in the sun because I find it pleasing to me. But this is essentially a form of sensory input, right? Noticing what type of sensory input you feel drawn to and what tends to be pleasing or soothing for you is a great tip to have just like in your back pocket for when you're starting to feel overwhelmed. Again, it's also a great way to get you out of your head and into your body. And so notice what things tend to feel good to me that I tend to enjoy, and how can I incorporate that as part of my life, especially when I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed. Number 4 is a little bit obvious, but I want to talk about it anyways. Talk about it. We as a culture tend to be pretty inundated with messages about how talking about mental health, talking about our emotions is like, ooh, gross, that's embarrassing, cringe, wrong, I hate that. It's not helpful to you. And also, that's not true. We know from the research, it's like so clearly demonstrated that just talking about how we feel or what's going on for us without silver lining it, without trying to fix it, can be such a meaningful way to actually process and then let go of whatever emotions are showing up for us in that moment. The caveat with this that I want to give and be super clear about is that when we talk about it, oftentimes it will feel worse before it gets better. Taking the lid, especially if we have suppressed or avoided talking about this for a while, taking the lid off of that will feel like, it's like a little bit drinking from a fire hose, but eventually it will slow, it will calm, and then you will start to feel a little bit better about it. So in that initial phase, be aware that you're going to start talking about it and be like, why didn't I do this? Why did I take that fucking lady's advice? This is terrible. But it will get better and it will help you to process in the long run. Again, this is something that we know from the research, and this is why like talk therapy, for example, is such a useful intervention, because oftentimes we just need space to verbalize and externalize all of the stuff that's going on internally. It can feel very, very overwhelming. And this is also too why we tend to experience physical symptoms of anxiety, because there's this stuff that's going unexpressed and it's trying to go somewhere. And so then we end up with like this feeling like there's bees in our chest, or like we're choking, or we have a tummy ache, or we're just like jittery and overwhelmed. Helping to externalize that is one of the best ways that we can alleviate those symptoms, along with all the other things that we talked about. But oftentimes this is just a sign that there's stuff in you that needs to go somewhere, and having a safe place to talk about it is such an underrated but highly useful thing to have in your back pocket. Tip number 5 is to nourish your body. One of the things that's so important for us to honor about food and drink and like consuming things is that it is inherently a way for us to survive, right? Like food and water are necessary parts of being a human being. And when we look at this from like an evolutionary perspective, it's rare and like uncommon that a being who is in immediate threat of danger is going to like pause to like eat a quick snacky snack, you know? This can be a great way for us to help center our nervous system. If we're eating a snack or drinking some water, if you have like the space to do that, and that's available to you, this is a great way to send the signal to our nervous system that we are safe, that we are cared for, that this is an okay environment for us to be in. Oftentimes, anxiety tends to be this like over expression of what is essentially like a safety impulse or like behavior. Feeling anxious or feeling fearful of something does serve a purpose in a lot of ways. Being afraid of like a wild animal, for example, is a really useful and important survival mechanism, right? It's just that our brains are like very big and highly evolved, and so sometimes there's misfires where we feel that same level of fear about about something that isn't causing us that same type of physical danger. This can also be a trauma thing. We're not going to get into that. We don't have time for that. The point is that nourishing your body and eating food, drinking water can be a great way to send that signal to your nervous system that you're safe and that you're cared for. This is also just generally good advice because when we are dehydrated, we are malnourished, or we're, we have like low blood sugar because we haven't eaten all day, it's going to do things to your body that probably aren't going to feel good. And so also just being mindful of like, am I meeting my core bodily needs? Am I honoring the physiological needs that I have? And how is that maybe impacting my mental health? Those are like two very important things for us to weave together and just be mindful of in day-to-day life. Thing number 6, again, is a little bit of an obvious one, but it's worth repeating. Cry about it. If you are anything like me, you may have grown up with the message or belief that crying and expressing emotion made you a crybaby, it made you weak, it made something wrong with you, right? That's not true. That's not true. And actually, it is such a great sign of strength to be able to express your emotion and to create space for that physiological need. Oftentimes, we stigmatize crying as like, again, a sign of weakness, or it's embarrassing, or like, ooh, that's cringy. No, it's not. It's literally a fucking physical need that your body has. In the same way that we need to eat or pee or poop, we need to cry. There's like a very real physiological catharsis that happens when we cry. Crying is like so very interesting from a scientific perspective, and we're not going to get into that right now, but the core takeaway is that crying is very much a valid coping mechanism. Sometimes we need to cry about it. It's not a coincidence that people feel a whole lot better after we have a good cry about it. This can also accompany talking about our issue in safe company with someone, and creating that safety and that validation around this very human and very normal need can actually be very, very healing, especially if our anxiety and our fears related to childhood trauma. Crying can be a great way to heal that inner child and to welcome and validate that you can have emotions, that that's allowed and also safe and encouraged, and like a great way for you to process stuff. So when all else fails, I encourage folks, go have a good cry in the shower if you're able to, because your face is already wet and no one will know. It's a stigma-free space. And also people tend to have great shower thoughts. It's a great place for reflection and deep thoughts. And so give yourself the space to have a good cry about it if you need one. That said, if you guys like the video, we do talk about stuff like this on the channel, but we also do a pop culture moment every now and again. And I'm happy to make more content like this if you guys like it. So like it if you like it, and let me know what your thoughts are. Also subscribe to the channel if you want to stay here. You can also turn on notifications while you're down there to get notified when I upload, and share the video to help the channel grow and to help each other grow. And I will see you guys next Saturday. Okay, bye.